resources. I know for many of you, it might seem like a dream come true, right? But here's the bitter truth about it. Those resources are never truly free. In this video, we're going to talk about and dissect the psychology behind why resources for the dissertation might fail you, why you may have been hesitant to invest in yourself to get dissertation support, and how making the right choices can save you both time and stress in this dissertation process. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this episode from ABD to PhD show. I'm your host, Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of Done Dissertation, where our goal is to demystify the dissertation process so that you can finish your dissertation in 1 year or less. This episode of From ABD to PhD show is sponsored by the Done Dissertation Velocity Group Coaching Program. It's a coaching experience helping to break down the dissertation process that you can write in record time. And our goal is to get you out of the door from beginning to end in 1 year or less. So if you're interested in learning more, you can go ahead and scan the QR code here on the screen, or you can go to www.velocitydissertation.com to learn more about our program and to click on the button that says Apply Now. Again, some of you all have been trying to do this dissertation process, so I want you all to get the resources that you need to finally get this thing done. So again, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. This episode is going to be really interesting because I want to talk about like the psychology of what's happening when you're going through this dissertation process. And again, I know a lot of us think about it as, oh my God, it's just about the writing. It's way more than that. And for many folks who are stuck or have been stuck for a while, you are starting to quickly realize that there's more to it than just writing. And so in today's episode, I'm going to talk a bit more about some of those underpinnings of the process that you might be feeling but might not be thinking about. And this goes around free resources. So I wanted to talk today about why free dissertation resources might fail you as you're going along your journey, if you consider that the only way you can be able to navigate this process if you haven't been able to do it on your own. Here's the first point. There's this idea and almost this illusion, right? It definitely is an illusion that free resources are indeed, quote, free. And I would just say it's an illusion, because one of the things I've noticed when folks come to talk to Renee about joining the Velocity Coaching Program, one of the main objections we get why people decide not to join is that they often give us this question about, why should I invest this significant amount of money in this program when I have access to free resources online and through my university? And for me, like, I understand the argument is actually really valid, and I understand where it's coming from. Like, I'm all about getting my coins used in the right way and making sure that they get allocated appropriately. But what I've come to learn, not only as an academic but more so as a business owner, I've come to learn that even something free has a cost. And I think one of the costs that sometimes we're not considering when we think about free resources is opportunity costs. And as a dissertation writer, when you're thinking about going through this process, you have an end goal in mind, right? You're getting this dissertation done for some purpose, whether it might be, advancing in your career. A lot of our clients want to start their consulting practices. There's something that's motivating you, or sometimes just to say, you know what, I actually finished the process. And there's nothing wrong with just that being the motivating factor. But one thing I've learned as a business owner is that sometimes it's the opportunity cost by not investing in yourself. And I use myself as an example. At one point when I was getting ready to work on my book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, I had previously written at that time 4 edited books, and I was trying to figure out how to put together this resource of 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation. But I knew, because of my previous experience, I did not want to go through an academic publisher. And for me, it was a pretty strategic decision for a couple of reasons. One is that from the previous 4 books I had done through academic publishers, I realized that they don't do a lot of the marketing for you. So you're going to have to do the marketing anyway. So it's like, why would I give up 92% of the royalties, in my rights to the book, for me to have to do the promotion anyway? So that didn't make sense. And then the money didn't make sense, that when you're getting an 8% royalty, it's pennies on a dollar. And, for me, I was just like, well, I got to do something different. But because of my training, going through a doctoral program, being a professor, I didn't understand how, going possibly the self-publishing route or being in control of the publishing process would work for us as a company. And so I had 2 options. Either I was going to figure it out myself and YouTube it up and kind of put the pieces together, or I was going to work with someone who was a business development coach around books in order to learn this process on how to structure and how to put everything together. And so as a result, I happened to see a podcast episode on the Social Proof podcast, one of the business podcasts I like. And I happened to see someone named Jasmine Womack. Shout out to you, Jasmine, if you're watching. She's one of the members of our From ABD to PhD group on Facebook. And I happened to see her podcast talking about the power of self-publishing your book and how to build a business and all around that. And I said, this sounds interesting. But when I went to talk to her, we started talking about the investment, and I was just like, "Ooh, I don't know if I could really, I don't want to do that." Even though I had the money, I could definitely have swung that investment. It was definitely one of the biggest investments I had made at that point in time. And while I had the money, like many of you all had the possibly the funds or can get funds to get support, as you're going through the process, something about it just makes it seem like, what, let me just continue to explore free. But the opportunity cost is like, look, if I don't write the book, or if I take forever to write this book, either someone might have a similar idea, or I just don't get it out there and I'm not able to make the funds. I'm not able to talk to more students that have bigger impact. And so this book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, was a direct result of working with Jasmine Womack in her program. But the program was in my mind at the time was more so expensive, but I just didn't have the right mindset. I wasn't thinking about how do I leverage this book to recoup my investment. And so part of what we do with a lot of our clients is like teaching them, like, once you work with us, realizing how easy it is to recoup your investment through having a doctorate. Like, y'all don't realize there's so many opportunities that await you having a doctorate that you just don't realize because you've been stuck in the same process for so long. And I share that because that's my own journey. At this point in business development, I probably invested close, I would say at this point, upwards around $40,000 or $50,000 at least in business development, because I know that once I get the insight and information, I'm going to be able to, have an ROI forever because I always have that information. And so this is something I want you all to consider, because there's nothing worse than when we get students who come to talk to us and, they've been stuck for a little while. They haven't made the progress they want. They're getting frustrated. So they, you maybe saw one of these videos, or maybe, followed us on one of our social media platforms and say, I'm going to check Done Dissertation out. And then when they get on the call, then they say, what, it's the money is the reason why. Or sometimes even for some folks, it's like the idea that, I might not be ready to just dive in that deep quite yet. And it scares you. And you might say, well, I'm going to do the free resources. And what ends up happening is that there's another cost besides opportunity cost. There's also the cost of money. Like, y'all are spending tuition dollars, regardless of if you are on a fellowship, someone's paying that tuition dollars for you. And I talk to universities all the time, and sometimes they bring us on to work with them because they want to be able to help their students get out faster because, you all costing them money. And so, with that, we have to consider, sorry, y'all, someone was messaging me. I want to make sure I responded that while I was looking. Hold on one sec. I don't know what this thing. Cool. Sorry about that. Make sure that message got through. So one of the things that I often see why universities bring us on, they want you to finish. And they want you to finish faster because it's costing them resources to keep you on and bring on more students. And so even if you're on fellowship, if my folks who are working full time and trying to finish up the doc program, like, it's costing you funds and tuition, whether you're putting on student loans or you're going and paying out of pocket, somebody's paying, and there's a cost to that. But not only the cost of money, right? Because money can be recouped. I think it's the cost of time. The fact that, you're spending all this time doing this dissertation when you want to do other things with your time. And then I've started to learn it's not even about the time anymore. I think what's much more frustrating than time is the mental load that the dissertation just stays on your mind. That has a drastic impact that I think is explored, because for a lot of us, it's nothing worse than having to go on vacation. We hear this from our clients all the time. They go to vacation and they're like, oh my God, I had to spend an hour, writing, or I had to really be thinking about my dissertation, even though I was supposed to be enjoying time with family. Like, this stuff takes up so much of your mental. Why not get this done faster? And I know it's a challenge, right? So you're trying to, balance possibly a demanding job, but that pays well. So you got to, do what you have to do to survive and feed your family. And, you have to take care of your family and do your dissertation work. But because those first two come easy, right? You're good at your job, you're good at what you do, and people are counting on you. So a lot of times your boundaries get, possibly encroached on by folks because you're really good at what you do. But then you have your family as well who need all of these things and resources, and you might feel guilt by not satisfying their needs, and you try to put yourself last. So all these things happen. And as a result, the dissertation gets kind of put all in the back burner. And you'd be surprised about how many people say this and have been stuck for a while because they just put everything else as a priority. And again, this gets at this illusion of like free resources. Sometimes we think that the answer is, oh, I'll just get it from YouTube, or I'll figure it out myself. But there's a cost. Think about the family and work. You might want to have more time to dedicate to those things, but you're still at the back of your mind thinking about this dissertation. Even if you're at the point you say, oh, you know what, Dr. Goins, I want to quit. I'm tired of this program. Even if you're at that point in the process, there are many of you that still are thinking about it. Even if you come to that point saying, I want to quit, you thought through that process. So it's cost you mental space. Our job at Done Dissertation is really to help you shrink that timeline to completion. So it doesn't just make sense to, be stuck in a process at the same point when and for many of our clients, they tell us this, and I'm sure this is for you, you don't want to have another birthday sitting at ABD. And so if that is you and you're someone in that boat, we always say, why not get support? Why not get help? Regardless if it's us or not, find someone to get that support. We're going to talk about in future episodes about just who to look for in coaches when you're trying to go through that process. But if you're someone that might need that support, definitely go check us out in our Velocity Group coaching program to see if it's a right fit for you and to apply to work with us so you can hear more about what we do so that we can help you get through the process. Because again, I want to see folks with these doctors getting out of the program and being done. And with that, before I go into my next point, I got to shout out Dr. Petula. Shout out to Dr. Petula, who successfully defended her dissertation at Baylor University. She's one of our clients. We worked with her during her proposal phase, and so excited for you to be done and moved on. I got to give you a shout out because the last episode you were getting ready to defend, but now you are officially done. And it was great to have a conversation with you. So shout out to Petula. And if you want to learn more about Petula's journey, I actually did an office hour episode with her last year. If you go on our YouTube channel in the office hours playlist, you'll see Petula in one of the episodes. And so definitely check out her journey for sure. And so when we are thinking about moving along in this process, right, and why the free resources for dissertations might fail you, it's not only there's an illusion of free, it's also this time sinkhole. And so I want you to picture this. Imagine just spending endless hours. You're sifting through disorganized databases online. You're going through all the Reddit forums. You're scouring the web everywhere, going through YouTube, and you just so happen to probably land on us and just realize, oh my God, they have a lot of resources on this thing, right? So you spent a bunch of time trying to accumulate all these resources and insights. And while it might be free in terms of your access to it, the time you invest is a resource that you can't get back. So there is a cost of time that is really impacting you. And really, I started doing these weekly videos. Initially, some of you know my story, but I initially didn't like to do these videos, right? It was something like, oh my God, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I know I'm an introvert. I know a lot of you folks might be introverts that are watching. I don't want to be forward facing, but I realized that in order to get the information, this is one of the routes that we go and folks consume video content. So I thought this was a great way to engage with you all. And we started doing these weekly because we saw that you all were getting so much insight and value from them. Whereas, I've had opportunities where I've gone to different conferences and I've had people come up to me and say, oh my God, Dr. Goins, those videos really helped me when I was working through my dissertation. And I would have joined you had I learned about you sooner. Those types of things, right? And so we started doing that for that reason. But even a show like this has its limitations. I can't help you and our coaching staff can't help you on a specific issue and that you might be going through that's related to your particular dissertation. As a result, you kind of have to piece things together from different free resources that you cobble together and hopefully to paint a clear picture for you. But as you can imagine, for maybe you at this point, that picture is very muddy and you're not sure what to do with it. And that's why I would say it's always something about the time sinkhole is one of the reasons why free dissertation resources might fail you as you're going through this process. Because again, and I've heard this from an entrepreneur named Nehemiah Davis. He always often says, if you don't pay attention. And I've come to learn that when folks have been thinking about their time, it's when you invest in particularly money in a particular result, when the price is at a threshold that it scares you, that's when you put the work in. And that's how our program is structured, because we want to make sure that it's at that point where folks are really dedicated to the work and they don't want to invest this money and then ghost us and not do anything about it and just, throw their money away. We're not about that. We want people that want to get a result. And so if that's you, definitely look into applying and working with us, because we want people who are ready to take action, but are willing to invest in themselves to get that outcome, because there's too much time that you're spending being stuck, and you all have insights and things that you can do with these dissertations. And so I want you all to do this work and do it in a meaningful way. And so lastly, my last point before I jump off is that I want to talk about, when we think about why free dissertation resources might fail you, is that there is a value of having expertise and guidance. And that's something, whereas I'm giving you my expertise in this way, but it's around a topic that I'm kind of, situating for you all based on what I know you all might be going through in your journey. And what ends up happening is that when folks come to work with us in our program, you realize that you have access to experts. And I'm gonna give an example even from one of my own doctoral students at my university. We just had this happen in class yesterday. And so during our class, I'm teaching a class on how to translate your work outside of higher education journals, but also how to write op-eds, how to engage with media. And so as part of our class, one of my students, we were talking and they say, you know what, Dr. Goins, I've been struggling with how to balance all of these projects. And when I sit down to write, I know I can write, but sometimes I don't know how long I should spend reading. And I go down this kind of black hole reading. And what suggestions do you have? And literally during this conversation was no longer than 5 minutes. I said, you know what? Here's what I would do. Here's my thought. When you sit down to write, don't worry about the citation starting out. And I explained to him how I write. I might have a sentence. I might say, my research area is on Black male student success. I might say, Black male student success is predicated on the following factors: family and friends being connected to their academic success, them being self-motivated, in a number of other reasons, right? And then what I would do in a sentence like that, instead of trying to find the citations for those points, I'm going to put a parenthesis and say citation, highlight it, and then I'm moving on to the next sentence. That way, I don't take up so much time engaging in the writing. That particular insight for the student, she's like, oh my God, I had an aha moment with that. Like, that's what I can do now. Is like when I do my reading, do enough to feel comfortable. But when I sit down to write, I actually engage in the writing process and don't spend time looking up resources. These are the things that an expert can easily diagnose because they've been through it over and over again. Like at this point, I've written over like 70 publications. I understand this writing game really well. And not only the writing part, but as a company, we understand that dissertation process because as one of my clients just emailed me, said, it's a process. It is indeed a process. It's not just about writing. And so when you have someone who can give you that insight, it really helps. And that's what you're paying for. You're paying for that insight for someone to diagnose your situation and solve it very quickly, where it might take you, my student had been struggling with that for about a couple of months, they mentioned, and we were able to solve that in 5 minutes. And so those are the things that you're paying for. And that's how you speed up the process. And then what you're able to do is that once you begin to invest in support, because you realize that guidance and expertise is very helpful, you literally are shaving down the time of learning and shaving down your time of being frustrated. Like, we all know the pitfalls as a company that come up for doctoral students. We've seen them over and over again, and we know exactly what to do to kind of move you in the right direction so you avoid those pitfalls. But this is the thing that you're giving, that you are investing in when you work with a coach, and why sometimes the free resource that you might get might not work to your benefit. And I'll just give an example for one of our clients. Maybe a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago at this point, one of our clients came on and was talking about an experience that they had with a chair who was giving them all this feedback. And the student has spent hours and hours writing this particular chapter. They thought that the chair's feedback was wrong. And then also they felt like disheartened because they felt like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go back and rewrite everything. And as a result, they were like, what should I do? And as they were giving the example of like some of the feedback that they were getting, I said, well, in order for me to really help, I need to see the feedback. So they pulled up the feedback on the screen during our session. And literally what we were able to do is recognize that their particular chair was a more detailed oriented person who was a stickler for the formatting. And so there were some formatting issues. I'm like, all right, these are formatting concerns. And as we looked through the feedback, all the feedback was minor technical grammatical issues. There was nothing glaring about substance of the pieces of the particular chapter. So I had to explain to my client that, you know what, actually their feedback is spot on, and they're giving me feedback because they are very much detail oriented. But the type of feedback that you want to be afraid of is that feedback that they give you. They might say, oh, your study is out of alignment. If you're not getting that type of feedback and you're just getting these minor grammatical things, go ahead and fix them and turn that paper in. Even if it's 100 of them, turn that thing around and get it back out the door. These are the things where an expert can help you because we know it, we can see it, and then we can diagnose and then give you the solution very quickly to solve your problem. But what some of you all will do, knowing you have the resources to invest in yourself, recognize and just don't believe for some reason that, the free, or you believe that the free will work, and investing and throwing, putting those thousands of dollars into yourself by working with a coach like us. It's like, oh my God, I'm just, giving money up and, how is it going to impact me? But we got to start reframing our mindset because we are spending a lot of time trying to get free things. And I would say I like my time, more importantly, because I can go make more money, but I can't make more time. And so once you come to that realization, you start to realize, and our clients that work with us are definitely scared of that investment when they first make it. But what they started to realize that in order to get where I want to go, I have to do something very different than what I've done previously. And so if that's you and you're someone who's like, look, I'm trying to spin in my wheels, I want to do this differently, I would invite you to apply to work with us in our Velocity Group coaching program. You can learn more about it. You can scan the QR code that's here on your screen, or you can visit www.velocitydissertation.com. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode. If you can, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook, hit the share button. Make sure you share this with a colleague or two, or share it on your timeline so folks can know more about what this information is. Because again, I want to get this content into more people's hands so that we can begin to think through all the psychological things that might impact our dissertation journey. And if you're those special students that might want that extra support and that advice and that guidance, that expertise, come work with us. We're here to support you. We want to help more doctoral students get through. So you can visit www.velocitydissertation.com to get the insights that you need to finish. And again, y'all, don't be so stuck in the idea that because I got to pay for it, I'd rather just try to figure it out. I mean, do that to an extent. But there becomes to a point where, paying for it yourself is not yielding you the result that you want. So if that's the case for you, then you have to start doing something different. And so what that might look like is actually investing in yourself, getting a coach, getting some support. But with that said, I want to make sure, and I hope this episode was valuable for you. So if you can, drop a comment in, let me know your thoughts. I will loop back around and check in with folks on the comments. And again, it's www.velocitydissertation.com. Wherever you're watching this, you can drop this in the comments, someone for me. That'd be great. Just so other people, if they're watching this on the replay, they can have access to this. But again, I'm really appreciate your time for watching this episode from ABD to PhD show. I'm Dr. Goins, your host, founder of Done Dissertation, and let's get these dissertations done. And until the next episode, I hope you all have a great, great time. Happy writing, and you all got this.